Hi, friends. Welcome back. I'm Emily,
And I'm Whitney.
and you are listening to Cousins Talk Crime. You're listening to a true crime podcast. Today's episode may include sensitive or triggering topics. These topics may include domestic abuse, child abuse, substance abuse, sexual assault, torture, murder, and suicide. But welcome in. We are in a bonus episode, a Reddit scary story episode.
And I have not read this.
You haven't read it. Whitney's bringing us one.
Yeah, it's just a random one off of Reddit.
Okay.
And this is the Reddit user, and it's not underscore necessarily is the username.
Okay.
And this is his post. It's not mine. I'm just reading an online forum on Reddit. And I have not read it, so bear with us because who knows what it could say.
Who knows?
But this is from his account, an actual story that happened to him.
Oh.
Yep.
It's a true story.
True, scary story. Okay, so I'm going to start. So bear with us. And it's titled, "There's only 5 of us on this camping trip. We keep counting 6.
Huh?
There were bright flashes of red in the sky. It's as if someone was waving around a flare light from space. Faint but noticeable. We all made UFO jokes and laughed as we nailed our tents into the ground. I knew for sure that there were 5 of us. We have been friends since early middle school and we're celebrating our high school graduation with this getaway camping trip. The flashes of red must have stopped randomly as we made our conversation while fixing up our tents. Dave managed to put his tent together the fastest and told us he was going to find some branches for the fire. I remember how he had worked with me at the local gas station last year. We used to do the night shift together, and it had made working at a desolate gas station much more fun than it was supposed to be. There was also Eric in the corner, still reading his tent manual, fidgeting with his signature round glasses. I wasn't as close with Eric as I was with the others, but I still remember sitting with him in math class and copying his homework one time. Ava was also there, talking with Sally, my cousin. Both had decided to team up and work on one tent at a time. I also have clear memories of them hanging around at school in our usual places. In fact, I even know Ava's younger brother, as he used to beg to go with us whenever we went. Wherever we went. I bring all this up because I'm sure that there were 5 of us, including me, that I knew everyone in the group. So he's saying they all came together, he knew all them from school. So Dave had went to get some branches as we pulled out some foldable chairs and set them up around the fire pit. I remember feeling uneasy as the sunset and darkness began to consume the forest. The shadows of trees around us, the minutes ticked by. Eric went to get a flashlight from his bag while we wondered what was taking Dave so long. He appeared soon after, the harsh rustling sounds of the bushes signifying his return. We were all buried in our chairs at this point, covered by our jackets. The temperature had dropped quickly, and a slight breeze was beginning to pick up. "Geez, you guys weren't even bothered to pull out a chair for me," Dave said as he arranged the branches in the pit. We had set up 5 chairs around the fire. I tried to rationalize the situation, but no matter how hard I focused, my head felt like it was underwater. I had perfect clarity up until that moment, but when I tried to focus on why 5 chairs were occupied when Dave hadn't sat down yet, my head seemed to just stop working as if something was reaching in and pulling out my thoughts. Instinctually, I felt even more uneasy now, and I had placed why. The whole forest had gone dead silent. I looked around at the faces of all the others and could tell that they had felt the same. Eric was fidgeting with his fingers, trying to scan around the group and spot the extra person, but it was futile. I scanned every face, each etched in worry and frowning in frustration, except for, "It's all right. I'll get the chair myself," Dave said, breaking the silence and somewhat alleviating the tension. I got up and offered to help him. He looked into my eyes and nodded knowingly. We headed away from the fire pit towards the tents, but I kept my eyes glued on our group. "How many people are here?" I whispered to Dave as he looked around and realized that we had indeed only packed 5 chairs. In fact, every person had brought with them their own chair. They were heavy to carry, and we wouldn't bring any extra needlessly. "There's 5, right? I mean, there's 5 chairs," Dave replied. His voice wavered as he spoke. "No, I just think maybe one of us forgot our chair," I said. My mind was struggling to address the issue head on and now sought to find rational excuses instead. I didn't quite feel in control of my thoughts. It felt like swimming in a dream, and if I tried to force myself to think about who the 6th person was, my head would begin to throb. "Yeah, that sounds about right, actually," Dave said, relaxing and heading back to the group. When we walked back to the fire pit and circle of chairs, 2 chairs were empty. One for me, one for Dave. Everything was added up now, even though we all agreed it wasn't before. Sally suggested that we were all probably tired after the long hike to get here and probably just needed some sleep. She could have been right. We were all sleep deprived from waking up early today to make it on time. Ava brought out the drinks. The whole 6-pack was emptied. We all moved closer to the crackling fire for warmth as we took sips from our cans and reminisced on memories of last year. Ava was in the middle of telling us about that one time she was home alone with weird things happening in her house when I got the sudden chills despite the pleasant warmth of the fire. What felt cozy and safe moments ago felt wrong now, all because I realized that there was a crucial detail I missed. "Who started the fire?" I asked, completely interrupted Ava in the middle of her story and breaking everyone else's attention. Everyone looked momentarily annoyed until they realized they had no answer. Once again, I scanned the faces staring back at me, all barely illuminated by the light from the fire, all familiar and pale from fear. "Wasn't it you, Dave?" Eric asked. Dave shook his head. "I think the person standing behind Jenny did it," Sally said, looking over at me. I whipped my head around so quickly it hurt. My heart was pounding in my ears. There was nothing behind me except for the encompassing darkness of the woods. Staring at those tall, dark trees behind me made me feel exposed. I felt like a lost bird in the vast field. "Wait, I don't know," Sally said. Her eyes had gone wide and she was shaking visibly. She continued to look around frantically as Ava moved over to her, placing her hands on her shoulders and trying to calm her down. "I think we should leave this place," Ava stuttered. "Yeah, something just doesn't feel right, but I can't put my finger on it," Dave said. "But it's so dark out here in the forest now, we'd probably get lost if we'd leave now," someone else said. "Yeah, I think we should stay the night and leave as soon as we can tomorrow," Eric agreed. I tried to protest, but realized Eric was right. The woods harbored an oppressive darkness within which navigation would be near impossible. Let's not sleep in our separate tents just to be safe, Sally said. We all agreed. We only brought one person tents with us, but we could squeeze two if we tried. That way, no one would be alone at night. Following this conversation, we all got up and made our pairs. I went with Dave, and Sally, like always, went with Ava. Eric kept complaining that he didn't have a pair, but we assured him he did. He wouldn't accept it. I feel like at some point we all realized that there were only 5 of us, and suddenly we were all huddling up in the middle of the clearing. Why do we keep thinking there are 6 of us here? Eric asked. Sweat was dripping down his face despite the cold. We had nearly left him all alone on his own under the assumption that there was another person. My stomach turned as I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to mentally recap everyone here. My head throbbed, but I kept pushing it. There's me, Dave, Eric, Ava, Sally, and I was pointing at each of them as I said the name. I retrenched and emptied the contents of my stomach on the ground when I got past Sally. The left side of my head felt like there was a knife stuck in it. My vision was blurry. Dave held me up to stop me from collapsing, and we all wordlessly started to move towards the tents as someone put out the fire. Dave helped me into a tent while the 4 outside discussed what to do. I could only focus on snippets of the conversation as the excruciating pain beating against my skull came and went in waves. Sally had the brilliant idea of arranging 3 tents together so their openings faced together at right angles in a sort of U shape, so we could sleep as close as possible and also limit the entrance to our tents. Dave was about to go help as they worked outside, but I clutched his hand and asked him to stay with me. The tents took some time to arrange. I started to feel a bit better once everyone got settled into their tents. A quick head count confirmed there were 5 of us. Eric would have to sleep in his tent alone, but he was more comfortable with it since all tents were very close now. Looking back now, I think he was just trying to put a brave face on for us. I regret that moment deeply, letting him sleep in his tent alone. He was always less integrated in our group and knew that none of us would pair with him. Just before going to bed, we all agreed to leave as soon as the sun rose in the morning. I remember taking one last look outside the tent into the forest before trying to fall asleep. The wind had picked up and the tree branches were swaying gently. Beyond our clearing was just pure darkness. It felt like the trees were closing in on me. With the faint moonlight illuminating our clearing, I turned my head to look over at the 2 tents we had left out and saw someone standing next to them. Despite the circumstances, sleep quickly came and easily. Ava's shrill scream woke me up in the middle of the night. Dave and I ripped our tent door open to find Sally and Ava looking into Eric's tent. We pushed them aside. Eric's sleeping bag was rolled up. He was still inside it, his head in the center, face contorted in utter agony, the rest of his body rolled around in it with the blue fabric now dripping with dark blood. Dave zipped up the door of the tent. Ava was in shock. Her eyes had become glassy and unfocused. Sally was shaking her repeatedly, tears streaming down her face. Dave picked up his torch and yelled at us to get up and run. We left the campsite behind and entered the trail we had come from. The 5 of us huddled together. Dave leading in the front as he cast his weak flashlight over the path so we could see it. All we had to help us get through this 2-hour trail was a small white circle of light. Even the moon failed to illuminate our surroundings through the dense foliage. Ava tripped and fell, twisting her ankle. We came to a stop. Someone said they knew how to splint it so we could keep going. They dragged her into the woods instead. It happened too quickly for any of us to process. Sally was about to run after Ava when Dave held her back. She struggled and managed to free herself, running into the trees to follow the echoes of Ava's screams. I was about to run after her, but Dave held me by the shoulders and shook me hard. "We need to get out of here, Jenny, please," he said. I hesitated, but jolted into motion again when Sally's voice was cut off abruptly. She had been calling out Ava's name as she ran after her. Dave and I continued to run down the trail, trying to get to our car so we could get out of there. There was nothing we could do. At some point, there were 3 of us running on the trail, Dave and I shoulder to shoulder, while someone else followed closely behind. "Dave, who's behind us?" I gasped. My heart was threatening to burst through my rib cage, and my legs burned. He turned to look at me. Confusion transformed into fear on his face and then into rage. "You keep running," he told me as he produced a pocket knife from his pants. He handed me the car keys, which I nearly dropped. Then he turned around suddenly and jumped at whoever was behind us. I continued to run in fear as the sounds of struggle grew behind me. I tripped and tumbled through the trail for what felt like hours. I didn't allow myself to stop. I almost cried when the trail ended and I walked out into the familiar car park. Not wasting a second, I ran to the car and started up, accelerating out of the forest and onto the highway within mere seconds. I'm typing this post out at a rest stop. My phone has finally regained service and I've called 911 to try to explain the situation. I don't think they believe my version of events, but they sent a car my way regardless. As I wait, the sun is finally starting to rise. After I hit the post button on this, I'm going to check why the person in my back seat has been so silent the whole time. And that's the end of it.
What? I got confused a few times with the numbers. Because, like...
Well, then she says her name's Jenny. But I don't know why I was thinking Jenny... There's a Dave. And was there an Eric?
Uh-huh.
And then Ava. And what was the other girl?
I don't remember the other girl. I knew it was Ava and another girl. I couldn't remember her name. I thought the main character was a guy this whole time. I guess I missed the part where she was Jenny.
I guess it's Jenny, yeah.
Because, like, after Eric was found rolled up in his thing...
It said they all 5 took off.
Yeah, I know. I was like...
But they kept saying that, like, there would be...
And they're saying, there's no way that's a true story. Don't believe it. Ew. That's scary.
Some of the comments are like, Ava's younger brother finally got to tag along with you.
I was thinking that. I was kind of creepy, though. I was, like, trying to picture Eric rolled up in the sleeping bag the whole time.
It says, all the times there is a 6th person there. 5 chairs occupied and Dave isn't sitting down. Everyone grabbed a drink from the 6-pack and it was emptied. Sally talking about a person behind Jenny. So it's Sally, Jenny, Ava, yeah, and then Eric and Dave. Several mentions of someone saying or doing something while everyone else is accounted for. Them thinking there can be 2 people on per tent with nobody being left out. And someone says, but it's so dark out in the forest now, we'd probably get lost if we leave now. Someone else said, Don't forget this one, the extra someone wanted them to say.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of creepy. I feel like you would know if there was another person.
Yeah, it sounded like they were tripping
Yeah.
on something.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, math ain't math in here.
And this one on Reddit, I want to say it's this year, for this year. It's the top story.
For this year. Wow. And yeah, it's a good one. It's creepy.
Uh-huh.
It was a little bit of a ride. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't know. I think they were on shrooms.
Yeah. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's dark and you're doing stuff and you're imagining there's someone else there,
Yeah.
and it's still weird. And then going back and forth with it. And then the fire went out and then they didn't know who started it.
Yeah. That was a weird one.
Weird.
That was weird. I don't think that's true, though.
Unless it did I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? But that was good. I liked it.
Yeah.
It just is like, it's like your brain's just trying to make sense of everything.
Like sometimes my brain was like confused what was going
I'm
on.
like, the numbers.
Reddit has some good stories though.
Yeah. If you've not ever been on Reddit, there is literally a Reddit for everything.
We are back with another Reddit story. This one is from user Roos85. It's ROOS 85.
Sweet.
And it's titled, I thought my boyfriend was the love of my life until I discovered he was drugging me at night. And this was just uploaded 23 hours ago.
Oh, this is a new one.
Super new.
Okay.
Lately, I've been waking up still exhausted. Even if I went to bed early, I'd wake up feeling like I haven't slept in days. Trying to get out of bed for work was almost impossible, which was strange for me because I was always high energy sort of person. A few hours of sleep and I was always good to go. I was at a loss as to what was happening. After a barrage of tests, even my doctor couldn't find anything wrong with me. The only recent change in my life was my boyfriend who had moved in, and I was sharing a bed for the first time in my life. Steven, who was the first love of my life, and this was my first serious relationship. I didn't want to spoil things by making him sleep in the spare room. I liked having Steven around. He made a real fuss over me, and he would bring me chamomile tea every night before bed. The pain in my hip was sharp and pulsated up the right side of my body. I jumped from my bed and nearly collapsed to the floor as I struggled to get to the bathroom. Steven, can you get in here? I cried. A big, dark bruise covered my hip as if I was assaulted in my sleep with a metal bar. What's wrong? Steven said as he came rushing into the bathroom. Did I fall out of bed or something? Steven had a weird expression on his face. I could swear he looked guilty about something. Probably. I don't know. His response was dismissive, which sent my brain spiraling with all sorts of thoughts. This is not normal, Steven. I think there's something wrong with me. You should probably see a doctor then, he coldly said, before quickly leaving the bathroom. My doctor was still at a loss and suggested I should see someone who could rule out anything nefarious. Steven was still dismissive of me as we drove to the hospital. I'm sure it's nothing. You're probably stressed from work. People don't wake up with bruises over stress, I angrily thought to myself. The doctor at the hospital took my blood and did all sorts of tests on me, including a stress test. I should have been happy when the test came back clear, but it only made me feel like I was losing my mind. Something was definitely wrong with me. I would prescribe you sedatives, but your blood work shows you are already on, okay,
I don't know. Nitrazepam.
nitrazepam. That's good. Explained the doctor. I was dumbstruck and wasn't sure what the doctor was talking about. I have never taken so much as a painkiller in my life. The doctor's face looked how I felt. He looked out his chart and looked over them again. No, you definitely tested positive for,
Nitrazepam.
which is a powerful sedative. Later that evening, as I sat in bed, a million different thoughts ran through my head. How was that even possible? I thought to myself. As I sat there, Stephen walked in with my tea, and just as I was about to put it into my lips, I was struck by the most unnerving thought. The realization that my boyfriend was drugging me hit me like a ton of bricks and filled me with a dread I have never felt before. I emptied the contents of the cup down the sink in the bathroom before jumping back into bed. Was it hot enough for you? Asked Stephen as he jumped into bed beside me. Perfect, as always. I felt as if I was lying beside a complete stranger. Had I even really known him? I thought to myself as I lay there terrified he was doing unimaginable things to me while I slept. I must have drifted off at some stage because when I woke up, the room was a mess and Stephen was nowhere to be seen. My body ached all over and it felt like I was in a fight. What the hell was he doing to me in my sleep? I thought. I had made the decision to go to the police, but I needed evidence or it was just my word against his. I had purchased a hidden camera and set it up in the bedroom, pointing it towards the bed. I woke up exhausted as usual, which unfortunately meant you had done something to me while I slept, but I had it on camera. I opened my laptop to check the footage. For the first couple hours of sleep, nothing happened. For a moment, I had hoped I was imagining everything until I watched myself jolt from the bed. At first, I couldn't believe what I was doing. It felt like I was watching a horror movie as I watched myself crawl up the bedroom wall like some possessed demon. I continued to crawl up the wall into the ceiling, looking down over Stephen like I was ready to pounce on him. Stephen woke, and it was strange watching him because it was like he was prepared for what was happening and didn't seem fazed by it. He took a stick out from under the bed as I pounced from the ceiling above, and he spent the next hour fighting me off. I watched as he subdued me on the bed before pulling out handcuffs and cuffing me to the bed. I looked at the marks on my wrist, which made sense now. As soon as Stephen came home from work, I ran and threw my arms around him. Why didn't you tell me what you were going through every night? Stephen shrugged his shoulders. I thought you knew, and usually the drugs I was giving you made things a little easier. Why are you even still with me? My last girlfriend was a jealous psychopath. You're a walk in the park compared to her.
Crawling up the wall. What?
That ain't real. Why do they keep giving us these fake ones on this real forum? Man, I was convinced Stephen was a bad guy. You really need to consult with a sleep study.
Oh my god, that's creepy.
Like, people are like, we're gonna need an update. What causes this? Like, do you think she was exaggerating? Because no one can obviously crawl up a wall and hop from the ceiling. People can't be believing that.
I don't know, maybe this will turn into one of those series since this was only uploaded 23 hours ago. There may be.
This says, it's called hyperthyroidism, and the crawling on the walls part was an exaggeration. What is true is that people can get really aggressive and go into attack mode in the middle of the night and not remember it the next morning. Few people who have it don't even know, which is pretty disturbing. Not very common, but you never know.
Wow.
Oh my God, Stephen deserves an award.
He does. That's a good man right there. He was just trying to drug her to keep it
That's
better.
crazy.
Poor guy never got a night's sleep. He's getting attacked in the middle of every night. But she's a walk in the park compared to his last psychopath girlfriend.
That's crazy. People loved it though. It already has 2,000 likes and it hasn't even been on for a day.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's probably gonna be one of the ones that goes on the all-time list one of these days. That's a good one. I liked it.
Yeah, the ending had a twist.
It did. Didn't expect it. And that's what everyone's saying in this comment section. Like, I didn't expect that. I thought Steven was gonna be the bad guy.
Right. He should have told her though when she was asking, like why she was bruised and stuff. I mean, he was beating her.
He was beating the crap out of her. He didn't have any other choice.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Oh, Lordy.
Well, that is all we have for the Reddit stories for today.
Yay. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, and we will catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.